Welcome to season 2, episode 4 of the Black Girls Blueprint to Maternal Health, a series brought to you by Revive Community Health Center and Black Millennials for Flint. I am your host, Catrina Tillman. I am the Executive Director of Community Health Center located downtown Flint, Michigan. I'm so excited. We're excited about tonight's episode, and I want to thank you, our viewers who have been with us for each of these episodes, and I can't wait to get into today's conversation. Tonight's episode is titled Pretty Healthy: The Impact of Toxic Beauty Products on Black Motherhood. Yes, y'all know how we like to do the eyebrows, the lashes, the makeup, the shampoo, the lotion. We're going to get into all of that today. So, and the effects that it has on us, especially for our expecting mothers. So I have some amazing experts, amazing women who are definitely have experience in this particular field with this topic. So let's go ahead and get introductions going. We will start with you, Boma. Welcome.
My name is Boma Brown-West. I'm the Chief Growth Officer at Healthy Building Network, and I focus on eliminating toxic chemicals from the marketplace. And I am based out in the Chicago area.
Ooh, shout out to Chi-Town. Y'all over here watching this, hey? All right, and next we're going to go to Yuwa. Go ahead and introduce yourself. Let us know your title, where you're from, and what you do.
Hi, I'm Yuwa Vosper. I am the Policy and Regulatory Manager at We Act for Environmental Justice. Currently, I am focused on toxins, especially in the marketplace. Beauty justice is kind of like the role that I play around in. And I also uniquely have a law degree in the field. It was based in intellectual property, but the school I graduated from also had like a fashion law clinic. So I also have expertise in like not only the export import of retail and fashion, but some of, the regulations around it and things like that.
Oh, nice. See, I didn't even know that existed. That's amazing that you have like a law background in this. Oh, yes. So let's go ahead. I'm really excited now. Let's go ahead and get into today's conversation. And to our viewers, just continue to share and like this. Let's help spread this information because there's so many people outside of ourselves that need to be in on this topic. So please don't forget to share tonight's episode. So millennials and Gen Zs are the generation most aware of what they put in and on their bodies. Yet there are still products contaminated with lead and other heavy metals on the shelves of most retailers. 8 years into the Flint water crisis, it is both frustrating and scary to know that cosmetics, prenatal vitamins, menstrual products, and other consumer products marketed to folks of reproductive age have been found to be contaminated with lead, which is associated with male and female infertility and miscarriages and stillbirths in women. To add insult to injury, products that contain more toxic ingredients, particularly toxic fragrance and hormone disruptors like parabens and phthalates, are heavily marketed to Black women and women of color. To the both of you, and you guys we can just do popcorn style, just jump in, whoever wants to go first. Why is it important to disrupt the skincare industry through community education and public policy?
I can go first in fielding that question. So I think the most important reason to me is that this industry for so long has not been set up to protect our health. This industry has been for the most part, self-regulating itself for, over 80 years. The FDA does not require for safety testing before products enter the marketplace. And so we as consumers, we believe that if something is on the shelf at the store, that the ingredients have been tested, that they've been shown to be safe, and that's not true. Furthermore, as Black women, because we're such a large consumer group, spending, I saw spending about $7.5 billion on beauty products a year, we have a large purchasing power. But at the same time, products that are marketed to women of color, particularly Black women, typically contain more chemicals of concern than other types of products. And we can see the impact that has on us as throughout our lives. It's been shown through studies that women who used hair relaxers and or hair oils growing up as children tend to go through periods earlier than other children do, and that there's a 40% increase in the chances of breast cancer and other types of cancers. And so clearly, this industry has not been positioned to be looking out for our health. And that's why it's so important for us to better understand what is in the products being sold to us, and for us to push back and raise our voices.
Basically, I agree with everything you just said. And I was going to say, I hate the fact that we say disrupt, because we shouldn't have to. And if it's being marketed, it's not supposed to be a disruption. It's supposed to be an automatic thought, right? So, and another thing I wanted to add is that not only do we see more chemicals in the product, but we see manufacturers and brands being very slow to do all of this in the Black market. You'll see it go first into a mainstream market, but you'll see it go in very less into the mainstream.
Yeah, and I think one of the points that you both kind of hit on is, as consumers, we just, for whatever reason, we just trust that, like you say, if it's in the store, it's safe. If it has a label, if it's at our local Walgreens or whatever the case may be, that obviously it must have went through some type of process for it to hit the shelves. And I just kind of wanted to piggyback a little bit on what you said, Boma. Why hasn't this industry specifically been more so tailored to African-American women? Even though I'm sure when we go back to slavery and how things were tested on us and all of these different things, especially when you talk about pregnancy and things of that nature, what are some reasons as to why this industry hasn't necessarily tailored some of its regulations? And I know you can definitely speak on this, specifically towards Black women.
Well, for me, I think Black women are sometimes an afterthought when it comes to products. We're not the ones they're marketing to. In fact, when we see advertisements, we're told to conform to the Eurocentric style of everything, Eurocentric style of hair, the Eurocentric style of looking, and that has filtered into our lives even to this day. So I think it's definitely how things are marketed, and it's right now it's empowering to see that a lot of Black beauty brands are taking the initiative to say, this is the way we your hair is it's not going to be silky straight right now. It is what it is, and it's beautiful the way it is. But our hair is different in many other ways. Our hair may need more moisture, and we don't have to do chemical kind of moisturizers, right? You can go back to the root, like natural products. I've started to follow a lot of See My Curls on Instagram, where they provide information such as, you don't. The most striking thing they ever said was, we're told to do the LOC method, leave-in oils and conditioners. And when we think about it, we're putting water and then we're putting oil, but naturally water repels oil. So how do we think we're getting moisturization? It's, that's the kind of things that's happening. And that's why we see a lot of we don't see it in the Black market yet, and that's why we need to kind of stay uplifted. And a lot of times, you know, we have to start ourselves in our own community, and then it starts to build out.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much for that. So an important part of clean beauty justice is the idea that clean, non-toxic beauty products should be accessible and affordable for all people, not just people who shop in certain neighborhoods or can afford premium priced products, right? It should not cost more to have access to safe products. Just like with our food, it shouldn't cost more to have natural, healthy food, but that's another Oprah show. Unfortunately, it is still common practice that imported products sold at discounted stores like the dollar store are known to be contaminated with lead and other toxins and heavy metals. This is particularly important for African Americans and folks of color who are of reproductive age. Many of us have these shops in our communities, near our campuses, or we may purchase ethnic products from our culture that may not necessarily be regulated. Also, Black women on average purchase 9 times more beauty products than white women, and therefore have increased exposure to these unsafe products. So let's talk about how can folks in the community remain informed about clean, safe skincare products. What can we do while out shopping or while mixing products at our home to reduce exposure of toxic chemicals?
Well, I just want to start that the when we say clean and non-toxic, we also have to remember that there are no standards or benchmarks around that term. So we have to really start to educate ourselves around that, because since there is no definition, standard definition of what's clean and non-toxic, that can vary wildly between brands. And as you said, it's a beauty desert, I should say, in many neighborhoods where you cannot find products that are natural or clean. And if you do, they're very much at a price point. You can see that in Target, that, you know, to go and buy one product, it's, you know, $20 over going to buy a product that may not have the best ingredients. So going back, I would say looking at the ingredients and being informed. And we're also not all scientists. So you're like, how do we do that? I'm not a scientist. How do I know what triaxolon and methalon means? There's an app called Syria, and you just download it on your phone, and you can type in the product, and the product comes up, and it tells you like what's toxic. Like if it's in red, it'll be like highly toxic, please stay away. For instance, before Laura Mercier setting powders became talc free, you would type that up, and then you would find like Laura Mercier setting powder, and then it will pull up talc, and they will put up talc is this, this, and this. So that way you kind of have to you have ways of making a better purchasing decision, like giving you purchasing power. Because some things I'm like, you know, it's toxic, but it works. So I keep it. You know, other things I'm like, under no circumstances will I have that. So you can make that decision for yourself.
Yeah, and I would add, Cleria, that's a great app for one to have right on your phone when you're at the store. And I would add, yes, absolutely. We don't expect everyone to be able to make over their entire bathroom sink of products or anything like that. But because at the end of the day, we need a huge movement from the companies themselves. But as consumers, as Yuwa was saying, there are a few things that we can do. There's a new, I think it's called a non-toxic Black beauty database that has a list of Black-owned brands and products that have been shown not, and this was actually in partnership with Cleria, that have been shown not to have a top list of toxic chemicals in the products. And so that's one way to double check and see what brands actually make it to that list, what brands are actually trying to do the work to keep certain chemicals out. One can also, from similar sources, download or look up checklists of chemicals to avoid. So any of those like long name chemicals, you don't need to know them. You don't need to know how to pronounce them. Some of them I still don't even know how to pronounce, but it's a nice way to kind of have a little checklist of what should I avoid when I see this word here. The other thing too, going back to what Yuwa said about how there is no standard official definition for clean or natural, is to also take a look at how is a company defining what they call clean. If they can't give you a good definition, then I would recommend moving on to the next one. But if there's a company out there or even, you know, a retailer out there that is clearly on their website or in their store saying these are the key criteria for what clean is for us or what natural is for us, that's one way that they're putting their foot forward and saying, we are trying to provide you with the best products or with better products. And so that's another thing that consumers can do, that we can do as consumers, to look out for certain products and see which ones might contain 0 or fewer chemicals of concern.
I love both of those contributions that you guys gave. I mean, especially, I mean, that's a very tangible way for you all that are viewing this to be able to check your products, just to download the app. What's the name of the app again?
Cleria. Yeah, so Clearya.
All right, guys, there you have it. You guys can go ahead and download that. And it seems to me, just based off the way that you guys were explaining it, like it's very, you know, user friendly, you know, and you're able to type in, because some of these words and the ingredient has every letter of the alphabet. And, you know, for someone who's not in the industry and doesn't necessarily have that scientific, you know, background, trying to pronounce these words and let alone actually know the meaning of it and if it's safe, can be a little intimidating. So it's good to know that there's an app out there that we can download right on our phone while you're at Walgreens, while you're getting your different lotions and things that you're putting on your body, especially, you know, when you're pregnant. You know, a lot of times, sometimes some women, we want to shy away from the stress marks. I actually embraced mine. But, you know, some of us want to, you know, put different products on our skin that, you know, we just want to make sure that we're being safe. Safety first. So definitely appreciate you guys letting us know about that app. So 4 bills have been introduced to Congress to make beauty and personal care products safer for everyone by getting the toxic chemicals out, reducing unsafe chemical exposure for the most vulnerable, such as pregnant women, and making ingredient transparency the new industry standard, which I think across the board needs to be. I mean, that needs to go for our food, for our health products, for everything. Ingredient transparency is so needed in our society. So in other words, support safer beauty for all. So Yuwa, I know your work with We Act for the environmental justice has been a leading voice in this work. Can you share about the journey to getting this important issue to the U.S. Congress and what progress has been made? And then also what we all can do, especially our viewers, what we all can do to make sure that laws like this are passed.
So We Act for Environmental Justice, we didn't, you know, the journey has been very, it wasn't been slow. It's just that we wanted to have all the information in place. So we started, well, we are founded by Peggy Shepard, Chuck, and Bernice Miller Travis. And that was founded in Northern Manhattan. And it's grassroots led. It's meant to give people power. So we don't speak on for the people, we march with and empower you, the community, to be able to make decisions and sit at the table. So a part of that, we thought that, the conception of beauty inside out was put into place. And so it's basically, it's a campaign run by the Department of Environmental Health at WEAC. And what they do is they educate about the ingredients in the product. They have seminars. We have one of our most recent events was at Columbia, and we had a DIY night with some junior high and high school students and taught them how to make deodorant and other products and things like that were completely natural, like honey, brown sugar, things like that. And we also have recently our results came out with a study on toxics and the cosmetics industry. And perhaps after I can send some of those materials for people to read, where we worked with Columbia and other researchers on how and what was very much prevalent in women in the communities for women of color. So on the federal level, we wanted to uplift that and to make sure that it is heard on a national level. So we also do a lot of work with breast cancer prevention partners. And as you mentioned, the Safer Beauty Bills package. And we also, I recently want to leverage the moment that is here for the cosmetics industry, particularly with the Federal Trade Commission wanting to revise their green guide. So that would potentially set some benchmarks around these terms like sustainable and clean and natural and things like that. And that's what we're hoping. And recently I did testify at one of the sessions to urge the Federal Trade Commission to vote to start the revision process, which was unanimously voted with. And now we have a moment with the omnibus bill. The FDA would have authority to recall, which is the huge deal, and brands would have to mandatory register, and that's the Modernization Cosmetics Act, or Safer Cosmetics Act. So right now there's a lot of movement beyond, REACT in the federal space. So I think it's time to leverage that moment, and we plan on doing just that. We plan on holding sessions with congresspersons, and we were even thinking about even having a booth at Essence Festival to discuss things of that nature, and kind of just getting the word around to women that this is something that we really have to be very vigilant about, because as Boma mentioned earlier in the segment, the FDA is not controlling this. It has no authority to control anything that's on the market. It's just a very reactive federal agency. If enough people report it, it's taken off the shelves. And then that takes even quite a bit of time. If you've seen HBO's special, Not So Pretty, I think it was called, they describe how they called in about Diva Curl. Many people called in, and it just took months and months and months to even get a reaction. So it's at the point of being, very vigilant about what you put in your body, especially with, the lawsuits. You mentioned chemicals, the lawsuits that are coming around right now with hair relaxers. And, the goal is not to scare people. And, that's not it at all. The goal is to say, we want you to be informed so that you can make an educated choice about what you put in your body. You can choose instead of being subject to, and that's powerful. So that way you won't have to, learn a couple of years later that you do have uterine cancer and you now have hysterectomy, especially if you wanted to have children. that would be devastating, right? So just to ensure that we as Black women, who are often the last to be considered, can say, you know what, we don't have to wait. We can do it on our own. We can make these informed decisions, and we know what's best for us and our bodies. So I think that's very powerful.
I love that. Boma, did you want to add anything?
Oh no, I think she said it all.
Perfect. And Yuwa, what are some things that, like, just as consumers or our viewers, that we can do to kind of help push this narrative, or do what we can to kind of help shine some light on this to make sure that these bills get passed?
So the Safer Beauty Bills Package does have a website, and you can always click for the updates to get informed. We had some lobby days. So, if you wanted to have the training session for the lobby day and then participate later, that could have been an option as well. And to call the person in office and say, this is something I believe firmly about. And I also, when I do that, I put it to me. I say, I am a woman of color, because I recently was testifying for a bill in Washington State. And a lot of the people in the room were saying, it affects women of color, it affects Black women. And I got up and I said, I am the Black women that it affects. So I am here to tell you this is the problem. So, I put a personal spin around that narrative. I have been subject to hair relaxers. And it's hard to go away. You tell people these are not just issues of chemicals. It's also how that it's being advertised, because many women are natural, but they don't want to maybe step out in public natural because of the way they fear, or the way they might feel intimidated by how they look. And that's not supposed to, be that way. We should be feel very beautiful with how we feel. And I always say, do what makes you feel beautiful, because that's what I'm a big proponent of. If that's what makes you feel beautiful, I'm here for you. But, those stereotypes in the community should not be, because, as you said, Black women do use 8 or 9 times more products than any other ethnic group, but even Hispanic and Asian and things like that. And when we think about it, it goes back to, slavery and being, not given the enough amount of soaps, and purposely, like, being, it's this narrative that we're just so lesser, that goes back further than we can just dissect in this segment. But, we have to just really empower ourselves to move forward, and then call your legislator and get involved. And also say that with RFIs and testimonies, especially with the federal government, you don't necessarily have to be a policy analyst or anything like that. You can be a concerned citizen and still write in and still, share what your thoughts are. You do not have to be any special title. So, you can go on the SBA website and, get the special alert, and you can see what's open for public comment. And you can do the same thing with the FTC, and put your 2 cents in, because, as I said, you don't have to be, a policy specialist or a chemist. You can just be a concerned citizen and say, this happened to me, and I don't want this in my product.
I love that. So, guys, let's make sure that we do what we need to do to continue to push this narrative, and to make sure that the products that we use, that we purchase with our hard-earned money, is safe for us to use. So this next question is not necessarily focused on beauty products, but touches on some major issues with menstrual cycle, feminine hygiene products, right? So just a few weeks ago, the NPR released, or just last week, the NPR released an article about the brand Flint settling a lawsuit over chemicals in its period underwear. According to the article, the underwear revealed the presence of short chain and I'm gonna say PFAS. Just say that because the whole spelling it out, PFAS, okay, which are human-made chemicals that are found in many consumer and industrial products, and have been linked to adverse health effects, such as ovarian syndrome and cancer. So to the both of you, how can women, particularly Black women, advocate and push against these corporations who consistently put our wombs and overall reproductive health in jeopardy?
Yeah, I mean, this sadly, this story about the Thinx underwear was not a surprise, in the sense that we keep on seeing stories like this over and over again, right? Of products that are on the market that are not well regulated, that contain toxic chemicals in them, and they haven't been disclosed on the packaging, they haven't been disclosed on the website. And so this is just another example of that. There are a few different things that we can do. I want first, what Yuwa was saying about raising our voices in terms of trying to push for legislation that will improve regulation of the marketplace. That's definitely a big action that we can take. But we can also vote with our wallets as well, and demand more transparency from brands. Earlier we were talking about what are different ways that you can kind of go in shopping informed, and select products where they're sharing their full ingredient list, and you don't have to like wait 10 years for them to share it. It's actually right there on their website. That's one way, by looking for products or finding products and purchasing products that are sharing their ingredient information. But we really do need to push the industry as a whole, because it is widespread across the industry to hide certain ingredients. You mentioned PFAS. There's also fragrance ingredients that are usually not disclosed in beauty products, or feminine hygiene products or hair care products. And those usually can contain, dozens to hundreds of different chemicals in them. And some of them, like phthalates, have been found to have impacts on our health, on our endocrine system, our hormone system, that is, our reproductive system. So one way for sure is doing that. I also think that social media has become a really great way for us to raise our voices about what we demand to see from products in the future. Especially, there have been campaigns that happen on Instagram, on Twitter, with people sharing their stories, but also demanding for clean beauty justice. And that's something that definitely the marketing executives at companies, they don't like seeing their names being called out as bad actors. And so that's definitely another way for us as consumers to be able to raise our voices and demand more transparency, demand the elimination of toxic chemicals from products, and to demand that brands actually use verified, safer ingredients. Because just because a product says it's free of something doesn't necessarily mean that what the brand replaced it with is better. And so we need them to show the receipts. That's basically what we need. We need them to show that, yes, that other ingredient, that new ingredient, is actually better than what they've eliminated.
I know, listen, we need to see receipts, okay? We need to see receipts. We have a son, we have 4 boys, and our second oldest son, Micah, is a vegan. He went vegan completely on his own. He's 12 years old, for about 2 years now. And I'm learning as I'm changing, being inspired by him, changing my eating habits, and even as a mom, how I cook for our family. All vegan ain't vegan. Just because it says, meatless or vegan, when you look at some of these ingredients, it's like I'm still eating a whole cow. So I can only imagine with, you know, the products that we use on a day-to-day basis, you know, our toothpaste, our, you know, deodorant, you know, makeup, if that's of your choice, your shampoo, I mean, soap. These are daily products that we, as a clean human being or a human being that is aware of your hygiene, you know, these are products that we use on a day-to-day basis. And so most definitely. Yuwa, did you want to contribute to that? Go ahead.
Yeah, so I was just going to add, not to, you know, it's not necessarily beauty based, but it is kind of related to that. So I was also experiencing I went from having a very consistent menstrual cycle to not having a very consistent menstrual cycle. And so then I went to my gynecologist, who also has a midwife, and she recommended an acupuncturist. And I noticed his name was very ethnic. So I was like, yeah. So I called him up, and he is a Black male in New York. And he allowed me to like just kind of discover naturally a lot of the things that I was doing that could really help me in my body with a lot of the herbs. And he makes some of his own, and he also he provides some that he buys. But ever since, you know, going to these natural resources such as acupuncture and you know, and getting these herbs and learning about these herbs before, you know, you put them in your body, I'm very much cyclical. And I also read the book called Women's Code by Elisa Vitti. And basically it tells you about your menstrual cycle, from the science of it to why you may be experiencing things, because she discusses how at the gynecologist's office, the first thing you have a problem with anything, the first thing they do is say birth control pill, right? Birth control pill. So you want to ensure that, you know, you're not talking, that it's not, you know, they're not giving you the birth control pill to remedy acne or PCOS or ovarian cysts, that it's something that you may want to ask for if that's your choice, but it's not a remedy to a medical issue. So she teaches you you do a 4-day cleanse that is, you eat like fish for omega-3s, you eat grains, you eat vegetables, and specific kinds, and you, after 4 days, can cleanse some of that out of your system to start learning about what your body's doing. So that also was very insightful. I had the opportunity to actually speak to her one-on-one and learn, you know, it could be the way you're sleeping. So I don't want, you know, people to, you know, we have to buy our menstrual pad and our menstrual products, but not to always be so reliant on one form of remedy, to learn about other forms of remedy that are out there, so that you're not being subject to certain kind of things such as stink or pads like that. And I personally, when I go, I look for pads and chemicals that are like purely cotton. And granted, they're not the best sometimes, they don't hold up, but it's better than having some chemicals that, like, if you think about it, it's sitting either within you or on your body for how many days? So it's literally absorbing into your body over a specific amount of years. So, and what Boma said with fragrance is very important, because that's not being classified. So if it says fragrance, you do not know what's in your product. So that's something that I choose to avoid in anything I purchase.
That's definitely what we call a good nugget. Good information for sure. Insightful. Well, as we wrap up this dope, amazing, much needed conversation tonight, we always like to end with a call to action from our guests. So if you could just pick what's one last gem you would like to leave with our viewers, with our audience tonight, concerning this particular topic.
I think I would just say that we do have a voice, and I hope through tonight's conversation, you've heard the different ways that you can raise your voice. One is with regulators, with government, right? One is with our wallets, and one is just our good old-fashioned voice of spreading the word to our friends, to our families, and even online, to help to build that greater and greater outcry for change so that when we finally go into the store, we don't have to be worried about what's in the products that we buy.
And I think that's amazing. And I'll add, not only that, but a lot of times as we talk, sometimes we don't have the resources, right? And that's the problem, to buy that $20 bottle of, it's better, but you have kids, you have bills, you have groceries, you have, there are things you may not be able to splurge on, and that's okay. And then I think that's when you start to kind of seek things outside and learn. So buy maybe products in natural form, like if you want to learn how to make say exfoliants, you'll buy like brown sugar and you'll buy coconut, and things like that, and make it so that you may not want to buy the toxic product, but you can still get the same kind of effect. And as I said, as Boma, I'm gonna reiterate what Boma said. Having purchasing power is amazing, to know what and choose what you want, because some things you're like, I know it's bad, but I'm gonna do, so I mean, there's some things you're like, I'm gonna like wean myself off of it, before, and that's fine, because I have some products like that too. But it's good to know what, I hate to call it picking your poison, but like learning what you can tolerate and what you said, I just cannot. Like I said, I don't do fragrances. And also a call to action can be, we empower people to make meaningful sound. As I said, go on the FDA website or the FTC or wherever you have, wherever regulates the products that you're worried about, and, sign up to those newsletters, sign up to those press releases, because if you see option for public comment or request for information, as I said before, you do not have to be a policy analyst to put your 2 cents in. So, that's a way that you can actually get yourself involved. And you also don't have to be anything special to testify at these public comments either, because if it affected your life, you're the one who can tell the most powerful story, because that is, your narrative.
Yeah. And can I just add one last thing, Catrina? I think one thing too is that there are a number of organizations now, like We Act, like Breast Cancer Prevention Partners, like Black Millennials for Flint, that are really, that can kind of help you find some of these avenues, and help kind of aggregate some of this information about products, about bills, and so on, to really help you, so that it doesn't seem as overwhelming to try and be involved.
Yeah, I love both of those gems that you guys gave, and hopefully you, the viewer, are taking notes. As she said, Black Millennials for Flint is a great resource that we all could use when it comes to toxic products and things of that nature. So definitely reach out and make sure that you guys are following them on all social media platforms. I would like to thank my amazing panelists. Thank you both for sharing your insight, your wisdom, and your own personal experience on tonight's episode of Black Girls Blueprint to Maternal Health. To learn more about our services at Revive, where we service expecting mothers in the Flint and Genesee County through our Revive Village program, which is free, might I add. Feel free to check us out. Feel free to check us out on Facebook, on our Revive Community Health Center Facebook page, or at our website, revivechc.org. Make sure you guys, you check us out next month for a new episode of Black Girls Blueprint, where we will be discussing Green Mamas. Yes, a tribute to Black women in environmental and reproductive justice. you guys want to make sure that you tune in for that. And as always, please share, guys, share this episode, click that share button, click that like button, help us get the word out of this much needed information. We bring experts to you every month that have good information for you to share and for you to take within your own home and to your family abroad. So please share this episode with a friend and continue to engage with Black Millennials for Flint, as well as Revive Community Health Center and our guest speakers on social media. Thank you for tuning in again, and we'll see you next month on another episode of Black Girls Blueprint to Maternal Health. I'm Catrina Tillman. Good night.